Indian Self-Determination Dinashnish Ahiahat.
Thank you. We also have Ms. Rosalind So.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Rosalind, the Area Director for the Navajo Area IHS. Thank you for the invite. Originally from the Chi'i area. Thank you.
Thank you. Marquis Yazzie.
Hi, good afternoon. Marquis Yazzie, Director for the Office of Indian Self-Determination, Navajo Area IHS. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Benjamin Alford.
Good afternoon. This is Ben Alford. I work with Marquise and Yvonne at the Office of Indian Self-Determination, Navajo Area Office. Thanks.
Thank you. Dawn Williams. CEO, Ms. Sally Pete.
Yate, honorable members of Resource and Development Committee. Ado Daisaf Sangit Anso Yate do She Sally Pete and she do Chief Executive Officer, Daisha title. Ado Nakaidananshno Todichi Bashishin. Ado she the Shinalado Tachi the Shiche. I've been with Winslow Indian Healthcare Center for over 20 years now. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Lockhart.
Go ahead.
Oh,
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I don't know what happened. Sorry about that. But Veronica Blackhat with Navajo Nation Department of Justice, and I'll be on the call as well. I'm Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Mr. Chair, Virgil Davis, Chief Operating Officer, Windsor Indian Healthcare. I'm originally from Novelini, Arizona. I also like to have Mr. Robert Salabai, Board Chair, introduce himself.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Shananda, Oversight Committee Chair and members of the Oversight. Please find that it so the Yat a cut sheet in Sna, honest as cut sheet. Could it eat was a chain, send your kind that should trade or sit not chilling the Chanel. Kia on it and no action, Peterson is son. Go here.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Good afternoon, Chair. This is Dawn Williams, the Executive Assistant to CEO here at the Winslow Indian Healthcare Center. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good afternoon, Chair.
Good afternoon.
This is Zan Poyer, Senior Project Manager for the Delcon Medical Center project with the Winslow Indian Healthcare Center. I also have my project coordinator here, Vera John. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. With the Winslow representing Keystone Chapter. I'll be listening in.
Thank you. Next.
Good afternoon. This is Candace Simonjini with the Division of Facilities Management and Engineering with Navajo Area Indian Health Service. I also have Glenn Sinajeni here listening with me.
Thank you. Next.
Good afternoon. This is Candace Simonjini with the Division of Facilities Management and Engineering with Navajo Area Indian Health Service. Ashian Shleh Hashkanadza Bashishchin, Maideshkizni A, Hadashichay, Torachini Dashanala. I also have Glenn Sinajeni here listening with me.
Next.
Good afternoon, Chair. This is Lindsay Knott, Legal Counsel for Winslow Indian Healthcare Center. Thank you.
Next.
Good afternoon, Chair. J. Elmer Clark is Jeanette, representing the Delcon Health Center Steering Committee. 개안이 저 뜻이 맞을지 다시 제도 보내봐. Thank you.
Thank you. Next. I hear none. We'll go down to number 2 on the agenda. Purpose for a work session today. The Resource and Development Committee had a tour of the Dilcon Medical Care Center a couple weeks ago. It's a beautiful building. There was concerns brought to us as far as lease transfers from IHS to also Winslow Indian Healthcare Center. So we have on the call with us today, IHS, Winslow Indian Healthcare, Department of Justice, Natural Resources Unit. We have General Land Development Department as well as Navajo Land Development Department. Lease transfer update. We needed some updates, and this is why we're here today. And we needed to have this done as soon as possible. So on number 3 of the agenda, presentation and discussion, the discussion on the lease transfer from IHS Winslow Indian Healthcare Center to the Dilcon Medical Center, and the obstacles encountered. Presenters will be Department of Justice, and then also from our own Legislative Counsel, Ms. Khan, also from General Land Development Department, Ms. Anderson Abasta, Land Department, Mr. Halona, and then from the Steering Committee of Dilcon Health Center, Mr. Clark. So on number 1, we have Ms. Blackhat from Department of Justice. You have the floor.
Thank you. So what I'll do is just kind of provide a summary or background information in terms of how we got to this point. As I indicated previously in the report to RDC, GLAD had reached out to DOJ regarding this issue, as there was confusion on how to process this request, as they have never done this before. So we had several calls with IHS to get additional information and request clarification on the acceptance, ownership, and transfer process for the Dilcon Medical Center. So as you are aware, IHS has 2 leases, one for the Dilcon Medical Center and housing units, which is for 43.13 acres, and then for staff quarters, which is for 32 acres. So what I had recommended during the last call is that there be 2 separate legislations for this. So the first part would be specifically for the transfer of ownership, operation, and maintenance, and this would be specifically for IHS purposes. And this goes in line with the construction project agreement that Winslow entered into with IHS for the Dilcon Medical Facilities. And what IHS is requesting is a tribal resolution from the nation stating that the nation will own the new medical facilities after acceptance and substantial completion, or that the Navajo Nation would authorize Winslow to own and operate the facilities. And once IHS receives a resolution authorizing Winslow to own the facilities, IHS will then transfer ownership to Winslow via a transfer agreement. And at that time, IHS will also send written notification to the Navajo Nation about terminating the respective land leases for the facilities. As I indicated, the lease requires written notification from IHS stating that they wish to terminate the lease with the nation. And then at that point, once all of those steps have been completed, Winslow can begin processing its request for a lease. As I indicated previously, the part that's not clear, and we may need additional clarification from IHS on this, is whether this just be done specifically for the south portion, meaning the medical facility and the housing, and then, or or it be done at the same time. But my understanding is, I think I understood it to mean that IHS was only looking to transfer the southern portion for now, and then do the staff quarters at a later time. But that is the extent of the information that I have. And I have, and I have been working with Mariana on language for the legislation itself. That's the extent of my update.
Okay, Ms. Blackhat, could you clarify the two legislations? Is one for a housing unit and another one for staff quarters?
So the way I understood the process is the first step would be specifically for the transfer of the medical center and the housing units, which is the south portion. So that's the one that we're talking about now. And then at some point, there would be another legislation for the staff quarters for the north portion. But what I'm saying is, in terms of the nation's process, the first thing that needs to happen is the legislation from the nation authorizing transfer of ownership, operation, and maintenance. And then later, we can begin working on the lease portion of it.
Thank you, Ms. Blackhat. Ms. Khan, let me go to IHS, Roslyn So, and Winslow Indian Healthcare Center as well.
Thank you. This is Rosalind again. I'm going to turn it over to Candace for our response. Candace?
Go ahead.
At this point, yes, that's from the discussions Veronica and I have had, and with the discussion from OES or ES Dallas or Mr. Weaver, that is the items that needed to be done. The resolution from the Navajo Nation determining who is going to own the facility, whether that be the Navajo Nation or WIC, that legislation needs to come before the transfer will be made. There's other steps before that, as far as doing an inspection of the facility, making sure that it meets life safety codes and it's safe to occupy. That we're in the process of trying to determine at this point. Once WIC reaches substantial completion with the facility and issues that to their construction contractor, the 1-year warranty will commence. After that, we will issue acceptance of the facility per our Title V construction project agreement. Once we do all of that, we'll issue the authority having jurisdiction will issue a certification to the Navajo area certifying that the Dilcon Medical Center meets all building and life safety codes and is safe to occupy. At that point, IHS will issue a beneficial occupancy for staffing and O&M funding to begin. If the Navajo Nation chooses to transfer or to own the facility, or WIC to own the facility, we do need a resolution stating that, and we will commence the transfer of the facility once it's followed all of these steps through. We got into beneficial occupancy. We will proceed with transferring of the facility to whoever the Navajo Nation provides in the resolution. Once that resolution, we receive it, we will commence the transfer per the agreement in the Title V construction project agreement. I think we had a discussion about how it was going to be transferred as far as, what it had to be complete before we transferred. And I think at the point we were discussing initially, it was the medical center on the south side portion of the land. That facility and the quarters were going to be transferred as one. I don't know if that's still going to be the case, given, I guess Dilcon or WIC would have to let us know, Winslow would have to let us know if that's still the case, if we're going to transfer them at the same time, or we're going to transfer just the health center first and then the quarters. I'm not sure. It depends on when both facilities get completed. I don't know if the quarters are going to be done at the same time as the health center on the south portion. And then the next discussion was at a later date when the north portion tract of land, with those quarters on that tract of land were completed, then we would do the transfer of that section. And once the transfer was completed or, agreed to, IHS would relinquish their lease, write a letter to the Navajo Nation relinquishing our lease to that property.
Are you done?
Yes, thank you. Sorry.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Candace. Certainly appreciate that. Ms. Khan?
Mr. Chair and members of the committee and those who are in attendance, as Veronica Blackhat has mentioned, she and I have been working on a resolution with regard to the transfer of the medical facility and some additional quarters. As I'm listening to what Candace has said, I'll just need to get further clarification as to what, in fact, the legislation will need to include, what specific language. The resolution that I have drafted in consultation with Ms. Blackhat talks about the requirement that was made in, let's see, I'll bring it up here. Just a second. Well, it's just not going to want to come up here, but there was a modification number 3. In modification number 3, there were 3 steps that were given as possible means of what could happen to the property that we are talking about. In modification number 3, in paragraph B, there was a statement saying that if there was going to be a transfer of the property from IHS to the Winslow Indian Health Care Center, then the Navajo Nation would need to provide a resolution stating that such transfer was authorized by the nation. And so that is the language that I worked on with Ms. Blackhat to have a resolution authorizing the transfer so that the IHS and the Winslow Indian Healthcare Facility could move on. And I have that resolution ready to go, and I could send it to Ms. Candace and also to the Winslow Indian Healthcare Center legal staff, and they could review it. In the meantime, I'm listening to see what else needs to be done at this point in time. So I do have that document ready, the first resolution, what I understand as the first resolution ready to go. That particular resolution, according to modification number 3B, would need to be tribal. It says a tribal resolution. And that is my understanding is that would mean it would need to go to the whole Navajo Nation Council. And that is how the resolution is written, to go to the whole Navajo Nation Council for approval of the transfer from IHS to the Winslow Indian Healthcare Center. That is my what I have drafted so far. And for whatever reason, my computer just won't come right up. But in the meantime, that's my summary of what I've been working on with Department of Justice. Ms. Blackhat, Mr. Chair, back to you.
Thank you. I believe that we do need to make some clarification on this. Ms. Khan, you asked that what will the legislation also include? There was some mention by Candace. Is that what you were asking, Ms. Khan?
Yes, and I will share what I have with Ms. Candace and to see that it provides what is needed as the first step. And it's going to, I understand it's going to take another legislation with regard to the leases. And that goes a different route. But as soon as I can send it to Ms. Candace, then she can review the authorization for the transfer, which is our understanding, Ms. Blackhat and I's understanding as to what needs to be authorized by the Navajo Nation Council in order for a transfer of property to occur.
Okay. Ms. Candace?
Yes, sir.
Mr.
Chair.
I believe that yourself as well as Ms. Blackhat and Ms. Khan need to get together and make sure that all the supporting documents are in place to have these two separate legislations drafted. One for the housing unit and staff quarters, the other one for the transfer of the lease itself. So, Ms. Candace?
Yes.
You're good with that?
Yeah, I can meet with Ms. Khan and Ms. Blackhat.
Okay, Ms. Blackhat?
That sounds good to me. I can meet.
Okay, thank you. And next will be Eddie Anderson Abasta from General Land Development Department.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, RDC members. Thank you for having us on the call. Just as the legal ladies have shared, we are just waiting for their notice and we can proceed with our side, but we're just on standby right now. So we don't really have anything to add in this process because we're just awaiting the legal matters to continue and to be finalized on their end. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Alona?
Good afternoon, Chairman Nez, Resource Development Committee, IHS staff, and DOJ staff colleagues that are all on the line. Good afternoon. And I've heard bits and pieces of the intent of the transfers, and I think it's really clear as that the current lessee, which is IHS, would have to notify the nation of their intent to terminate their lease before any action could be taken on a new lease at facilities, but everything would have to kind of happen simultaneously, so there's no break in service or anything. So I guess it's just a matter of putting the whole process in place and receiving the official notifications from IHS. They are the lessees right now and have all the rights per the lease that they've been given. There are provisions in the lease for termination and so forth. So those have to be followed, and of course, the new lease that's being developed as well. So I think Ms. Khan and Ms. Black Hat have the process pretty much handled. It's just a matter of time to put the pieces together, so it will dovetail in, and things will be right as the intent is that we are discussing here today. Chairman Nez. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Olo. It was mentioned earlier as well that the requirement for the termination of land leases is done in a written notification. So, Abiga, thank you for that, Mr. Holona. In a while, we'll open up the floor for questions and recommendations, but we'll go to Mr. Clark. Mr. Elmer Clark.
Can you hear me?
For star 6, yes, go ahead.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair, members of the Resource Development Committee, and those all online and listening. Again, introduction. I'm from TISTO chapter. I'm also the chapter president. And then I was a planner. I worked under the Navajo Department of Health for about maybe over 16 years, since 2006. And I finally retired this past year, in September. But today, I still continue with this Delcon Health Center Steering Committee, made of 8 representatives from 8 chapters within the Winslow Service Unit. They looped at Tolani Lake, Bird Springs, Tisto, Delcon, Indian Wells, and Jedito. One time we were all 8 members were within the steering committee organization. But they since then on their behalf, working with the steering committee over the years. So the other day, last week, I was listening to the March 9th on the same issue for this transfer to the lease and ownership of Northern. And then today, this afternoon's meeting that was scheduled out of that meeting again. So we meet every second Thursday each month. So the next day, March 10, that was when I reported, this issue back, the discussion back to the steering committee. So they wanted to also, raise some questions and maybe some clarifications and inquiry. But I think, for the most part, the steering committee is open to the idea of this transfer in ownership. However, the steering committee, they were established back in the early 70s. 1974, Frank E. Paul, vice chairman to Chairman McDonald at the time, had a document signed recognizing and acknowledging the establishment of this Delcon Health Center, Delcon Hospital Steering Committee. The steering committee was established. In 1978, the Delcon chapter, and along with the steering committee, working towards this concept, the vision. Elders as Tweedo San in as far back as late 1960s and early 70s, they wanted to see a hospital in their midst. So this steering committee has named. So in preparation for that, the steering committee, they withdrew 700 acres. And today, this 43.1 acres is within the 700 acres that was withdrawn. The whole intent was to withdraw 100 acres for the Dalcon hospital, but due to election turnovers in leadership, that didn't hold out to be as such, and that is the reason why that the additional 32 acres was withdrawn more recently. So all in all, I think the steering committee, they've been around working on this project for about 50 years. So long story short, it's got a long history. So long story short, the steering committee secured the land, and then Mr. Manuel Shirley, also delegate for 4 terms, he says. He was able almost single-handedly. He secured water from Greasewood Springs chapter. This water here today is services White Cone, Indian Wells, Dalcon, and Tisto. This same water source again is going to also service the new Dalcon Medical Center as an interim water source. The permanent water source again, that's the one that's coming in from Loop chapter. The other one is the infrastructure-wise, the power line that's coming in from Indian Wells. ADO, the Dalcon Steering Committee, working with NTUA, ADO, that power line was initiated, the planning and right-of-way, and eventually NTUA and Dalcon Steering Committee got sued over the right-of-way. But now, as of today, that right-of-way, the alignment has been rerouted. So hopefully, there won't be any other issues as far as opposition and whatnot. Lobbying, planning, advocating, going up to Washington and all, for funding and all that over the years, the Dalcon Steering Committee. Then the other thing too is both the Dalcon Steering Committee supported way back that this hospital facility should be a 638 project, and they expressed that idea, and so they've been supporting this 638 idea all along. The design monies came out in 2016, and IHS asked Navajo Nation as to how Navajo Nation wishes to proceed, whether it be a federal acquisition, that is, if IHS is to design the facility, or a tribal acquisition. That, if that were the case, then the 638, in this case, Winslow Indian Healthcare, would be the 638 designee to spearhead and take the lead in the designing of this facility. So ETA President Russell Begay was in office along with the current President of Navajo Nation, Jonathan Nance. So President Begay's position was he wanted IHS to design. But however, both the steering committee and Winslow Indian Healthcare Center Board of Directors administration were able to convince President Begay at the time to reconsider. And at the end, which he did, he reconsidered and decided to make that a tribal acquisition, a 9.3 million. The first notice of funding availability, NOFA, that came out. Then ultimately the response back to IHS was that President Begay and Navajo Nation wishes to, as a Title V entity, Winslow be afforded the funding to design the facility. So that's how the design monies, and that's how it was handled. Following that, a couple of years later, the notice of funding, NOFA, for construction came out again. So that was in April 2018. So I'd say the same thing that President Russell McGade wanted for IHS to undertake the construction. Because once again, both Delcon and Winslow, we wanted to have this also be a Title V compact construction project. And the reason being is that there's going to be a lot more flexibility. And it took some time. There's some issues and contractors coming and going. So for that, number one reason was to let's try the 638. We feel that it's going to be more efficient and it's going to be more expedient. The other one is we felt that this health facility it warranted a cafeteria because there's no amenities out here in Delcon except for Bashas and maybe a couple of C-stores. So for our clientele, the staff, community, cafeteria, so the only way it's going to happen is if it was to be 638. IHS, if IHS constructed, then there would be no cafeteria. So that was the second reason. Third reason is veterans healthcare. In the years to come, in the future time, we want one day to that facility to provide healthcare to our local veterans community and even regionally. Instead of going to Prescott, Tucson, Phoenix, that was the third reason. The other reason was fourth reason, expansion. We know that it's going to be an ambulatory clinic. At what level is she patient? But as far as we know, it's an ambulatory clinic. It's short of being a medical center. It's short of being a hospital. It's not the hospital because it lacks surgery ability to have people, undergo surgery in that facility. That the steering committee and along with Winslow, the long range goal is to have this as a medical, a true medical center in the area. So back in June 2018, the steering committee wanted to meet with President McGade, and President McGade wanted to meet only with the steering committee. So, and that June 24th meeting, President McGade asked, I just want to hear yes or no. Do you want this hospital to be, this health center to be constructed as a Title V compact entity? Yes, 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 yes. So we went around the table, all the steering committee members. Now, my second question is, what's your reason? And we went around the table again. These four reasons I stated, the 8 count. So at the end of the day, then I'm going to make this decision right here and now. You're going to witness what I'm going to talk to you. So and he told the committee he's going to go ahead, consider to approve this Delcon Health Center to be undertaken by Winslow in the construction phase. So we have design and construction of both 638 Title V compact again. So out of that, then this partnership, Winslow requested one Delcon steering committee to come on board with them back in 2015. We all got twin arrows. Exciting. Let's unite. Let's partner up. Okay, this is going to be your roles. This is your responsibility. And there's a pamphlet, there's a brochure, and both Winslow board president and steering committee president they signed on those two documents. So let's be partners. So that's what the steering committee, as a grassroots organization, we're volunteers. We get no stipend. There's no compensation of any form, but yet we work on this project for 50 years. A lot of our elders, even some of them said, maybe I might not see this facility. I couldn't action with that. And sure enough, some of our members, they were, this COVID starts elders way back. But the question from the steering committee is, are we still in partnership? So in here, maybe it's as a supporting entity, supporting resolution. Husband, we did all the groundwork. Like Manuel Shirley says, we did all the dirty work. They put everything's all set. They're fine and dandy. That's what Mr. Shirley today he says. He's an elder. He's about almost 88 years old. He's still on the committee, steering committee. The other day, so they want some participation and involvement, maybe, be allowed. Also speak to the issue and maybe by way of supporting a resolution. So now not the chapters, they'll come chapter, they'll come chapter president, the officials. Who are we in this whole process? What about all the other chapters? We should be stakeholders. We are stakeholders. Then why aren't we included in this whole process? So it's kind of wondering, how that might be treated, or is this Winslow's initiative good enough? Because we do hear questions, we do hear opposition out here. So it is something of this magnitude. This is history in the making. What about the federal tort claim? Well, federal tort claim, will it still be there? And what about insurance? How much insurance does IHS pay? Winslow, do they have the capability? Questions like that. Is there a relinquishment language rescission? How is this different from being a simple Title V compact entity? What does it mean? What are the implications legally and have you? For ADD, otherwise, it's in this medical center after all these years coming to fruition. It's becoming reality. But those are the concerns, questions from the steering committee. Although the information coming out, Navajo Nation, the owner, Navajo Nation will be the owner of the Winslow, or Navajo Nation Council will authorize Winslow to take up ownership. But ADE at steering committee wanted to somehow express, have their thoughts and concerns expressed in this whole conversation. So this is the agenda today, is a discussion. So, we have questions and the chapters, but even the steering committee, real kind of a breakdown of all this information. Let me say about that much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, the clerk Otto, expressing your concerns. They could all transferred on any 40 years as link on she. Wind on could that. You say at the strain net or not for all need any it or by Yelke. So here Arnold Scott. At this time, we're on number 4 of the agenda, and honorable members of RDC. So that's a baha see to on night of Ketida. Any comments or questions, honorable members of RDC?
Shiash, Ricky Ness, honorable members of RDC, and Celinda Thomas Walker Jr., and all the other members. I saw this since Shito. Ado kwesitsilin Elmer Clark.
Is Sally Pete?
Yes, this is Sally Pete. I'm sorry.
Okay, Ms. Sally
Oh.
Pete, CEO, go ahead. You have the floor.
Okay, thank you. Eye, also had this sequel, Bahwind and Gidida. I'd say, I had the dictionary with a Bahwind, council, counselors, legislative attorneys, and then get up. I thought you that Dishnishla, Edo, thank you very much. Ado, where the crucial, have been a bahana, they keep Coco, Ani, the ownership be a day kid. Navajo Nation's gonna be the first time. This is gonna be the first time that the Navajo Nation will take something like this. And we have gone through so many areas where when we first went 638 back in 2002, those pilot project, and when we did well, we went on and we went before the council with the help of my brother Thomas Walker Jr. And we eventually became Title V and self-governance. That really put the Navajo Nation on self-governance status and opened the door to many areas. Leaders only because 638 be on Michigan ani ayonan ato bike we do ashbehas Indian Health Service ban nation should question nache eben nation siske so called this 638 a job da inish go jo na nishiki be Bez ani gibi ko on nesho nijon ye anhin harchinda ye nijon go deil nisto na neshita hos a kunza de e khati Navajo Nation Navajo 638 days ye dike. I don't let the other tribes like Apache or other natives. They look up to us too. We have San Carlos Apache. They join us with 638 Association. Ato len jongo dash ilan hito sato anejato letan hisno. So we have been partnering with them also. The Kui was ba jolnegi akun de dide ani kwe bahaozi from the Legislative Council, though, and also Candice Tanachini. Thank you, Shitejiaji, for bringing up, providing some information. Yeah, they're going through that substantial completion of the Indian Health Service. It needs to be a needs to be a national. Akoko dide beneficial occupancy or that's when we get the funds for staffing. We need the staffing. We need to get this going. Transition Winslow Indian Healthcare Center, Kodo Winslow, donde del kanjin de Mexico. Astoda hot and hidden hunda nishito lagana to nurses done lengi the kushi or you it's over 500 positions. Ado akwaige adin handol akhandato nishikito bitahuye nurses done lengi doctors done lengi to Ado OU flags that the double one. Town just double one called Nzad Adesh Nata Katolishiki, a conda compa wind. Oh, you go it at the end a could end. Once we get the beneficial occupancy, from Indian Health Service, we'll be able to get some funds to hire some individuals, some staff members. Higher daily, and we're using our own funds. The resolution had to get from Board of Directors back in June. We have that supporting resolutions also. Elmer Clark. We have gone through all these chapters and they supported us. So all those documents were presented. In legislative office, though, in the Ms. Khan's office, and sure Ms. Black Hat has some information also. Although I thought some of these information in the documents were draft. Mr. Halona Yahazi, the termination of lease, no, that those have been draft. What so about this since so I don't Elmer Clark Yahodnege, what I did care when what I Yahodne a coco, Kidige, when neko tort claims that's a bit kidasti. Judge know about not Kidige, because we are with Title V self-governance, it's with the Indian self-determination. Edabikisti. Abelache insurance to hidon he hullo. Edabikitasti. At and the one nilikito or zel need ange edabikisti to be yin adole equipment, medical equipment that at ebikist list. I die hatulia. Adobikenilia. We have to do that. A coco Njonji doles, Nachachinapa, Ani Delcon Medical Center. That means it's going to grow in the future. Adole, some ambulatory. It'll have an ambulatory clinic. It'll have inpatient. That's going to be the first hospital in the southwest region of the Navajo Nation. It'll have 12 beds. 2 of those beds will remain at Winslow, Little Colorado Medical Center. Couldn't hesitate and get agent that Mrs. Stoish. A call na kiko bet as a person to chot. A coco lay nasa what they see, what they see. They already put some areas aside in the back of that facility for expansion. What I thought and I'm sure that people from, or the staff members from Delcon Medical Center will attest to that. They're on the call also. Okay, they are just going about this since and Elmer Clark Jr. Okay, but the how do the 15 Jina Hino. Eshi Anni, what and the net or units on the Heskado. beta si de o pahini ashin that is I says zel in it I've been to a lot of those meetings. Ko edit a had o this is how it's but could about this Shilla Robert Salva, that's so bad this could thank you very much.
So Sheila, speed koro, hinjiki, niti o update how you have been gero, hagi less kidla hands at the whole just any get you have been gonna hard koi had even not chance. Sarbetan hadit legislation had all Nathan. Now, Job has in got Elena Kigo Abrahos and legislation data. Once it reaches substantial completion at Navajo, G. Adoti at Ashin Code Jigi that a hit Ashin Deacon Hadaliagi certified in a Koti Narchigo. A con here got it a Department of Justice, Office of Legislative Council. Con his kiddo east do hotala the legislation gehardod no a haji a large gad housing unit or staff quarters gishi legislation by na kigona a legislation the lease transfer in lahiki Asian aj asatid on le kodin here that the ahigishi asa kitnad na show arodi kromis candice Asian still sato, Miss Senator Chin is not the shorty, a hot Arnold Sorsigi, hashed a day later, late a day hot. Honorable members of RDC, do you have any comments or questions? If not, I'll hand it over to Elmer Begay. Honorable Begay. Press *6 to unmute.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, Chair Nance, I don't the members of the Research Development Committee though on the clock. Oh, yeah, I back echo, I don't the job, I don't bahos, I get up, yeah. I don't understanding that my brother though. Elmer Clark though had three, so either had or I don't Shadow though had three, so Sally Pete though he had eight though. I don't members of the from the DOJ attorneys though, I don't our own legislative council though. Yeah though for working on this. I know it's been even getting the funding was there was a question there called to get that money. How do we receive the money? And then at the same time, who's gonna be you know that it took quite some time. But it's not say or hospital no. We don't know what was going to be in all intel in it. What because it's added we don't know. So it ended today as things progress and for the better for the people, go for the nation, and then there's to be on our own, to be a self-determination, self-sufficient Indian tribes. The or even as far as schools that happen. But we didn't even know about housing on deck. So but most of all, you know that but here we didn't see what But up on this case, Lishiko. So, but I job, but hello, I don't know the hello, the thing that end Lish, it are the Lish that's a call, the bar case busy. Here on the is hit, it's a late, where you can be satisfied. What there's need or the potato on case. But there's need or the hit, she is the leashing. He ordered that about the sun shadow nations on the shot is on this so what don't me. I call issue with she that I call since the most important thing is to not to dash even the year. Don't end or me. He came he's an end lineage since they call I think from here in the hotel hold this a lot of people are going through this health issues we have. Oh, you would hear, and then that's so how do we expand our case to about anything? So if it's gonna be like that, how do we do that? About to ensure that the hospitals can be for that care be hadika. But you see or that issue that about our case in later call this. There's all these wellness and you has auto the healthcare and again has on the reservation but seems that could now on with the end so how do we do that? So Alban see case ago. Asking what was the date net? I don't know national dance to here had only been so asking so when do we start turning point to get well? What Asha at answer case you know has that's need of this. I think that's very important today. It seems and we're responsible for that. We're accountable for that. These health issues. How do we do that? Well, we need somebody. We need some interest people or well educated, well knowledge that has that the commitment to provide health care for our people. What happened to now here? Oh, was it as I do this? Other to the zone height and north is yeah, not the slightly bespoken. We need those people to come over to Delcon. Even here in the hot eco. This it's all over IHS in the hot tea. So when do we help? How do we help? Because in all these Indian countries, I thought the Congress put it in certain orders. How do we help them? With this, but the ownership, be an owner to that. So how do we help if we can be an ownership to this to provide care? How do we do that? So we all be responsible for it. We're all accountable for this to get well. How do we ensure that this hospital will care my people, our people? What are the health issues? So with this 638, it's that how do we do that? How does this? Where do we start from? Jido, a Bahazin, given yet that at all. When you get at all, let's put this in order. I thought, if I don't hear an abado kill, Hela Kabado, Quacky, Bahazina, the Jido, you need, you don't told Yage, be on Nado, equal to that Yagi, if I thought a Bernard or that. How do we ensure that this one person goes in and come back? I think that we're accountable for that. Even yeah, issue with yeah, quite neat. You see, she even yeah. Or is she has one secret and Hayat Ehnahan or honest in Yaho, being a leader and being a to have little per you have. So if it's on to the case in lately. But just based on the quite upon the case in lately. I think quite yeah. Ben he cut off was a coshade, although the ownership and indication in the balance case that we need to start putting these in line. Out of the issues we have is with the retention and the recruitment to this hospital. I don't know that quite the I think what another thing that we have is one thing that Asia needs the ownership. Where do we make sure that we have a asset, something to Joshi don't need and quite the where do we go back? Is there I think my question is can go Chairnaz Kadona, I just keep on this. I'm going to go to VOJ or I think Candice is on the line, and then also Larlene is on the line. My question goes to is in that agreement, or is there somewhere in that legislation, is it going to be somewhere it's going to state like how long does this ownership, is it going to be a time limit? And that's one. I don't know. Is for the next question would be if something happens, and how do we determine that who's going to be overseen, or is it going to be the Navajo Nation Department of Health? Are they still going to be overseeing that, monitoring that this healthcare is providing a quality service healthcare? Where does this go across the Anike? I don't know. The next one is there any, if something happens, is there going to be a transition given back to IHS if something happens, or is something like that? Is there anything that's going to be indicated in that resolution or the legislation? So that will be my only three questions I have. Then also I'll be the community they're all in support and resolution. So whenever it becomes available, Mr. Walker that they sponsored so I'll be co-sponsoring him. This is Chairness. I can't have.
Health board change for that Narsla a coalition coagation Hoshin long the Shin Sato Nabride Kistide and Yat Echo Nahiti Kat or Lesson that or Ziki Kuro Ashin Nathan by Yanskito Banson case or Shin at the Nahiki Bahin G Cushion ADD Hotel less. This is probably the third time that we're meeting on this. You have transferred or Niki I Shibanya Kuro Satnit Lankit all transferred or Niki Corona as for all least or short bit and I legislation had it all neatly kissing it edo hagi lasilkin. Honda funds and the whole just on all source gila hat and that deki even that who's in kissing it out. So, Honorable Vice Chair Walker. Yes, Chairman, can you hear me? Yes, you may proceed. Okay, thank you. Na kina khadi pesh bahna be khanit le en del nish ahat en do yada afida ahoyo ne holla ko ko be ke kwa showing the chairman though committee members don't just staff though everyone on the call, there's a number of offices and agencies on the call with us. He did committee members mainly towards all the committee members so that you'll have that perspective from I guess myself. So that you all know I represent the Southwest area along with my brother, Honorable Elmer Begay. Just Southwest corner. Several 8 communities, 8 chapters. That's the Winslow Indian Healthcare Center's service unit. So 3 of those chapters, Bird Springs, Loop, Talani Lake, represent to the council. Of course, you know the other 2, Cameron, Coal Mine, Tuba City Regional Healthcare, there's Ajin Nakat, Nigi, Nati Kocha, Wit, Yahaki, 3 of my communities or chapters represent so all 3 chapters that I represent, they each have a board member to the Winslow Board of Directors. Although the 3 chapters, they have membership, a representative to the Delcon Steering Committee. Representatives, they all have a voice. Our chapters have a voice. I think it's adequate to say it's adequate, the representation, because local chapters health board member in Nadi to WIC Ajinat Ani Itantan Bengi Aj Naha Nahaz the steering committee we have 2 sets of advocacy groups. Like for myself, the New Mexico issues, Eastern Agency, I try my best to understand the location, the logistics involved in the communities that whose issues we address. Morning, what's the very nappy, the Nessa Eva Hounds, Kedat, Equa, Kayapadet, Yikibahin, but do it off on Saki, start on map the national Adigatla, should on Sinaho. I could actually the soft case and so even and so I am pretty close to the issues here and the concerns, of course, on the good side to the development, the progress in healthcare, though the progress in Indian self-determination, whether it's our courts or law enforcement or education or healthcare, to the self-determination, by being observant and being a participant and being an advocate representing the these entities also, they're in our legislative district. Brother Elmer Begay, all the entities, all the agencies that are located or that are hosted in his legislative district. Jadi hotel ko even ashin so na pa ka nelu abohne anigi ego to chudol ko banji hazanda ni sipesh pa sa andio hotel ko jadi ba ni hotel cho inta hotel alne ko khayla yab hazanda ande ahol ji don de khoche هاتي نازل خيلة يبش أهزن شدود إيدا أدا الياقو إيكا نجلباه دوزن نجلباه زندو وتقعد إيلا شدا دي إيدو لي إشي land department دا لا دا تقعد نكيغا ديو جيدا دي تقعد إيلا دي دا كواجه نغي وينزلو جو هتا بادا إيليا جو نيدو لي شو كد the thousand dollars that then I just wanted to include that perspective for oversight to the leasing, land leasing because no in John needs a link or resource and development committee. Today, Ali healthcare, not on the Banahut Standing Committee, oversight, Dan Zenhinanta, Hessi, Nan RDC, Haki. I could what the Asha, Pedi, the Pedet, Diego. Ashinit, what else? I call Ishin Soda, Ashin. I just want to include that, and then also back to the local chapters within the service unit. As far as I know, my recollection, and as far as I know, these chapters that I represent, they do have resolutions in place. There's a long line of resolutions, a history of resolutions for this project. And those resolutions, they're all progressive. At Elana, Toti, Nana, Jota, Nayanapicha, the Nahata is Nadi, Koteko, Aha, Ahalo, Tado, the Sosa, Ado, Pedo, Sadinita, Etote, O Ishtan, the Shishako, even it overkill nature. Could ego in Georgish in Lebanon, Adani Clinic. I think it's important to know that the chapters that are in these service units, their position on the matter, the subject, or the plans, the ideas, it's all progressive. I want to say that. But Ado Indio H in the عشان هذا العين تاعت كتو هات شيء يعتبرنا the healthcare service delivery the quality control جدا نودا تو يتانا نساتي نانت دي تشين تو كيا هذا بيش شيء تخطى تاعت هيك تو كواجي تو ويو يا يسنا الله بينيت كو the healthcare services gishi adaliado vedo ta in silione bahada silione shi ad nan nalido le johnson do bansas case caution and I appreciate the time and time taken from leadership, and then everyone that's on the call, the IHS. Certainly we most appreciate our trustee, being long-standing and probably a partner indefinitely from here on. But
bahas aniki hajat what ni ke hot ni do na khai nis na hat aji so hot ni liat as Indian nations put ko di shi kwage put ban sunat ban yan sunada ki so le the net na hat do nebenand the nen linigi that atahot it nasika or cho na ha you get the dot things in that they get satin the dominant the bis dominant the keho adat the nan yat pata we but ego na ha get the dot things on so do ban sas physical kwege nan what are you great Navajo Council what Shada CEO Dali Pete and then you 2002 Tribal Council Navajo Nation Council Resolution not sleepy eat out the initial Dean me 2005 that nana was the zero at on that adequate enough I got in the authorization for operating healthcare facility as a 638 contract Title 1 for 2010 Navajo Nation Council a Title 5 the Badla has authorization none but I don't reauthorization and need the Panaho that authorization Danza na den over anago the idol is that be not the nabado neither call progressive that support is progressive the leadership 20 years ago they decided to do this take this opportunity and it may have been a chance and may have been some risk involved but we're beyond that either they not also and children's go at be holders is and yes you get the whole answer so in that sense it's the nation the way it treats 638 healthcare providers the support is there and it's progressive but although yes there's concern and yes we want to monitor we want to be apprised of challenges things that go on in our communities although we want to know their accomplishments and all that you get every so often report nothing audit report that for quality control oversight ni clinic yat out the nearby the nature in but the national they need been ideal kid but by yale kick or joe tanigate yat question and resource and development committee but benison dana last week what are the stakeholders Asian pedeti they don't need that it's to need adding fishing trailer nana need or it papa but got asati he neho should asati should a quacha at neho ashin coach even yenahata but that the neko content has a question and I do see it very important to also have the local government, local chapter government, especially the host government.
Chakale Padeti. So Delcon chapter, those staff that Ada. Ashin Kada Isa, Ashin Teko. Ada Hintahan Neko. Ado Sato Tabenato, Sato Bahwind, even the Isa Yat Cheko. But Elako, as Elmer, my brother Elmer Begay mentioned that the sponsorship of legislation, they hit high need so that is a hit. It are what Edo Ado Resource Development Committee in Kidoshin, and I would highly encourage and recommend that you also be co-sponsors to this legislation when it's developed. It's historically it's going to set precedent certainly. Even not on the kayak large visit and a bonnet Johnson or Hitler Hitler never Sahakis and Niki to Hitler. The banana Sabe has that there are still challenges with water, the Loop Delcon water project. I thought the power line projects, I thought that infrastructure development. There are challenges here and there. Ashin Ben Yeda another deal, never caught a teacher. So, Chairman, I want to make my comments like this and appreciate the time and question like Honorable Vice Chair Walker Koroba Heinzi do Neo Hisnan Sto Skiti Tito Nahat I hast a deal need I edit a condition zel and Ajel Nahaki the never change will net to a we 7 year so he had and honorable members of RDC / Bahanana Chito Bahanidos Kiddish. At then, yeah, Pakoshila, Joe, what error Latida, and
Chair,
can
I say something?
The Koro legislation had a Nahikishi, the Office of Legislative Counsel, or DOJ, at Winslow Indian Healthcare Center. Let's say, she changed all Oceanal Chosiki.
Thank you, Chair, Mr. Ness, and members of the Resource Committee. This is Robert Salabai, the board chair of the Winslow Indian Healthcare Center. I thought I have to make a statement regarding the support of the transfer of ownership and lease to the Winslow Indian Healthcare Center. We addressed that issue by resolution by the board of directors that was submitted to the Indian Health Services and other stakeholders in the Health and Education and Human Services Committee back in June 16, 21. And that was referred to this committee that you chair, the Resource Development Committee, regarding lease. So upon substantial completion, which was being done today by IHS, a walkthrough yesterday and today, and upon their completion of review and evaluation, they will be a written, I guess, a review of the results of their review of the site. And as a result of that, we are really strongly recommending that a transfer of lease take place, and that as a result, funding would come forth for staffing of that facility. I hope that all is well in completion substantially and meeting all the safety codes, guidelines, and federal requirements for such a facility as a healthcare. I'm just very glad that we have the stakeholders here, IHS, the Navajo Tribe, and Winslow Indian Healthcare Center in addressing this transfer. It's a first, and I really commend the leadership of the Navajo Tribe in initially taking this first step and approval for 638 authorization and then compacting and contracting the facilities. They're two separate things, the service providing and the contracting activities. But the funding for our operation has been well documented. We're capable and we're in compliance with all of our funding agreement, and we are annually audited with no discrepancies. We've had a clean audit for the past 16 years since we've been past 10 years and so forth of our funding. It is a very responsible organization that we have. They're accountable, transparent, and we're willing to live with the funding conditions that's put on us. And we have multi-year funding agreement in place. So I would really appreciate our leadership to support our effort to get the ownership transferred. Just to give you a little background of myself, I'm a current president at White Cone Chapter, and our community support this concept and this idea. And I'm also the board chair of the Winslow Indian Healthcare Center here, and supporting it by resolution and letters and correspondence, and our CEO working on it. And also in conjunction with the Little Colorado Hospital, I'm also a board member at the Little Colorado Hospital here in Winslow, who does our follow-up on a lot of our patients. With that said, I hope this will clarify some of the questions about accountability, liability, and other concerns that people that are questioning will turn to recommending a full support for transfer of ownership and operating of our Delcon clinic. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Salabai. Araba hain tiki hehe hehilla. Aro khaydash fahnana tsi. Anybody else?
Chair.
Yes.
This is
Please
Mr.
identify yourself.
No, Elmer Clark. This is Elmer Clark again.
Okay, Elmer Clark, you have the floor.
Yeah. So here's an I, although RDC members and all the agencies in conference today get some of the questions. I believe there's some responses, although some clarification. It here. But they nani another country. So a lot of it is due to breakdown, communication, coordination. So quite. So another, like I stated, the steering committee, they supported 638 concept from the get-go. Day with our Ashiro Tegoshi, John Nenal, she don't need. So she does need is 638 by supported that. They go out, but those clarifications, the questions that some of the committee members had from the steering committee part, they changed the not on. So she Nami and those keep those steering committee. And Lindy, it over it, for she they saw the ship or hit the chapters, so supporting resolution. And that the Jack shape, the Asian shape. So again, the shape that I think that also that's a reference to my chapter I'm talking about. It is also thank you, Chair, and everyone on call, and thank you for the discussion. And it's John that shape the show. Thank you, Chair.
Kushila, Mr. Clark. Yeah, go that. In here, Mr. I see because on nail points and gate Elazel. Yeah, Jim Jurgen Honey and a nail. I guess we'd like to be there for the opening day as well as the ribbon cutting ceremony. So, the Shimbatla Nitlina. Yes, go ahead. Ilanana. Nam Atanya Hakushila. Ms. Khan, Ms. Blackhat. So you have all the information that you need to draft the legislation?
Oh, yeah, Mr. Ness. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, who's this?
This is Lorenzo Lee Sr. from Delcon Chapter President.
Okay, Mr. Chapter President, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, RDC committee, Mr. Walker, Elmer, PBJ, Elmer Clark, and Nasa, the other, Sister Sally, it's you, Mr. Salby, for those from District 7, though, that's how the Bahabai, so Stiho. I put all in that, so all the, other, about who needs to know, not with all the, so I understand, but all, I hit with no, let on, but it's just, the president, so that they get, I say, I want but it Nangi to a David Caho. So, Lano, yes, so here is the I understand Kimberkin can load off at the zero, yes, you know, I support that one hospital need Agi. It's so she at got children, got anybody in, you know, they literally actually recruitment and retention Ningi to even illness. They say, it's number the balance of it off Bahar, this attorney, the Neho, the one need on there. Or sometimes you need ungetted in the Zah and he was working on it. I don't know the response on the response now, which we talk about it by years, by nature. The I don't need so you get doctor, I don't get down, he card all this. The nurses that they know. I don't get it. The master plan, how the yeah. Even as a corner airport, I thought next. They doctor Honda, Casa Hotel, but Nadi, as a Christian out there. According to that, what of one hospital get out. One day he needs it, and I don't the stack quarters. Kobe Kidney, clothes, and get out, they don't get low. I thought all the Bahati. They had his not by Yaski about Digi, which they are the resolution by Yaski, the Hone, or this is what say, we're going to never thought it not this. Okay, Hayat us not about that of the hospital, as Elmer, he can't able to need Adneha, because you don't high in the other needs Adneha. Because I don't know Shamus and say Lorenzo, please senior Danish Del Condo, chapter president, is I don't know speaking on the basis change and the situation of relation Naleha. I don't honest for yet, it or cat nan, and so let's go here.
Sheila, Mr. Chapter President, here, behind Cheeky, slash banana, Chitty.
Mr. Nez.
Yes.
Mr. Nez, do RDC, do Honorable Representatives Johnny Nails, additional Winslow Indian Healthcare Board of Directors Tistoda do Tisto chapter Situ Elmer Clark the chapter president do state initiative pedas and or Kedan. I just want to say, going to the point of discussion, is this transfer of the land documentation, on the ownership, or taking time out of your very busy schedule. Of course, all those entities that are involved, Department of Justice, or Land Department, or General Land Development Department, they did expediently. How much we appreciate it. So I can say on behalf of the Board of Directors, you are appreciated to giving this due diligence and not scored on this. So the hospital is ready to open. We're ready to progress. Of course, I just want to just say a big thank you. Thank you, sir.
Kushila, Mr. Nails, Ado, Hain, Ziggy, Pailanana. And yeah, Hakushi, Joe Combe, Ms. Khan, Ms. Black Hat, do you have any further requests?
This is Veronica. I don't have any additional requests. I believe we have all the information we need, and if we need anything else, we can certainly reach out to IHS to request additional information. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Black Hat. Ms. Khan?
Mr. Chair, members of the Resources and Development Committee, I have forwarded my draft of the legislation to both Ms. Ginny and to Ms. Nash, and I await dialogue through email with them and with Ms. Black Hat with if any changes need to be made, or just to make sure we are in agreement and this is the language that would suffice to take care of this transfer. Mr. Chair, we will continue to be working together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Khan. I don't hear
Chairman Nez?
Yes?
Chairman Nez, this is Lindsay Noss. I am legal counsel for Winslow Indian Healthcare. Good afternoon, and good afternoon, honorable members of the committee and the others that are with us on this call. I wanted to acknowledge, Ms. Khan, that I did receive your draft. I've taken a really quick look at it, and I will discuss it with Winslow Indian Healthcare, and then I will get any comments we have right back to you and to Ms. Black Hat. So I appreciate that the two of you have worked on that draft. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Knott, for that. Any others? Perhaps what we'll do is, Ms. Khan, I understand that Honorable Vice Chair Walker will be the sponsor of these two legislations, and Honorable Elmer Begay will co-sponsor them. And just keep us updated on where we're at. If we need to come back together, we'll do that and have a leadership meeting, perhaps a couple of hours sometimes. And we would appreciate that, Ms. Khan.
Mr. Chair, yes, I will get back to you if there's any need for another such meeting as we've had today. Meanwhile, I will continue working with the attorneys at IHS and Winslow Indian Healthcare Center and Ms. Black Hat. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Khan. Honorable members of RDC, I believe we had the updates from all stakeholders today. Moving forward, a legislation will be adopted after all the supporting documents have been submitted as well. So It is currently 4:57. We will adjourn at this time. Thank you. You all be safe and may
Thank you,
God
Chair.
bless each and every one of you.